So a lot of you guys know we do webinars basically every month, and we're bringing a special guest in, which is Mary. I will let her kind of give the scoop on what she does and how it works. But today we're talking about leadership and kind of giving a little reference. We are slowly sending everybody in our team to Mary, including Austin's been, I've been, and we're going to talk to Kelly about it today, actually. So she doesn't know that until just now. I know a few of you are already signed up, ready to go. I know McLovin's been multiple times. You want to mute, Kelly?
I'm trying, yeah.
It really had a huge impact on me personally, on something I did with Mary. I think Austin will vouch for that. It made a huge impact on him. She is a incredible person, a pretty good businesswoman, and a really incredible leader. And she has a unique way of seeing into your soul in a amazing way. So I'll let her give the scoop, kind of what she does real quick before we kick it off and kind of go into questions, just so you all know what she does and how she could help.
Well, first and foremost, I just want to say thank you, Josh, for having me on here. You know, I was told years ago, if Josh ever came through Bold, look out, we would be buried, that you were an incredible guy. And, you know, to get to meet you firsthand, I just want to just say, it's been amazing, the people that you surround yourself. We are who we surround ourselves with. And to be on here today. So what we do, so I'm with Driven Leadership. My husband and I co-founded the company 13 and a half years ago. We had leadership development. We were in that space for 8 to 10 years. And I don't know if any of you've read the E-Myth. When you think you can do something better, you find something, it's just like, why don't we start a leadership development training company in the midst of a recession in 2009, 2010. Yep, so that's what we did. And our whole belief in everything that we do, it is leadership behavior. We want to wake people up from the inside out, that it's not that they're just getting information, that they truly take action, it's applicable, and they get the results. So we do have what Josh is referring to, our Bold Advanced Leadership class. That is a 2.5-day class on steroids that really gets you to look at the deep dive within the leadership for who you are. Yet at the result is you are a better individual, a better business owner, a better mom, dad, partner, spouse when you walk out of it. We also do things for management, and my just passion is waking people up.
Yeah. Austin, you want to give like the minute version of your experience?
Yeah, absolutely, I can. So my name is Austin. For those of you who don't know, I work with Josh and the Clover team. I have been in leadership and passionate about leadership from the time I was, I guess, 16 years old, being thrown in positions where I shouldn't have been leading and really drowning in the process. And so being with Josh and being with Mary and just the journey through corporate Chick-fil-A was a lot of background experience there, where they kind of took me under their wing and said, hey, let me teach you how to do this thing in a different way. And so I've been working with Clover now for almost 3 years, which is wild to think about how time flies. And then got the chance to meet Mary and interact with her in Bold. What was it, a month or two ago now? And so being on this panel with these two, I am the facilitator, absolutely. And I'm excited to kind of discuss what leadership looks like on a daily basis, waking up and leading and learning how to even develop ourselves deeper in leadership. And so are we good to go ahead and kick this thing off? Are we excited?
Yeah. Before we do that, let's not let Austin not give himself credit. When he says worked his way up through Chick-fil-A, he was a corporate trainer, an executive, and ran and operated the largest Chick-fil-A in the world, where you did, because I think this fucking is ridiculous. How many sandwiches a day?
I mean, I think the most we did an hour was 9,000 an hour. I have no idea the amount we did in a day. It was just too many. But I will just say that's way too much Chick-fil-A. Let's just put it like that. It shouldn't be done. It was 5 stories. It was just too much.
Downtown Manhattan.
Yeah, it was fun. So, thank you. Yeah, that is, it was nuts. I saw that comment there. It was absolutely nuts. We could tell the stories or the horror stories, from it one day soon. But when we talk about leadership as a daily practice, I kind of want to open it up to the panelists here, Mary and Josh Kelly. In what ways do you motivate yourself, right? So one of the big things about waking up and leading is finding that thing. And I know just from being a business owner and working with a lot of business owners, that's really hard, whether intrinsically or, externally trying to motivate. So how do you do that in yourself, Mary?
So for me, leadership is a daily practice, like 100% hands down. And I can tell you when I'm in a high state performance mindset, my practice is non-negotiable. So I wake up, I have to do journaling. Like that is my go-to. I ground myself, figuring out who I am, what I need to focus on, my priorities for the day, do a little bit of reading within that, and then figure out how to do some self-care. Not every day do I get a workout, and that has been a daily practice. I'm really big into the 1% about what I can control. And when I move my body, when I eat healthy, when I have to ground myself first, I am in the game. When I get away from that, all of a sudden, sometimes you don't see, or I don't see it right away, but I'm like, why am I so frustrated? Why am I angry? Why am I pissed off? Like, why am I not 100%? It's because I've gotten away from the daily practice.
Wow. I'm going to give a terrible answer here, but it's just the truth. I'm not set up like most people. I have a different mentality. Like a lot of people really need to be driven by like a huge why. And I'm driven by why. Like, let's not be, a lot of people put like journaling or meditating or like, gratitude practices really to help center themselves. I'm not built that way. Like I'm a systems guy above all else. Like to Mary's point, like I work out every day. You know why I work out every day? Because I built a gym in my house and a dude shows up at 6 a.m. to come get me to work out. So it's like, do I have the excuse of not walking outside of my bedroom? Not really, when the dude's waiting there, right? So a lot of my motivation is because I just put things in place where it's not really an option. And the second part of it is really I am a momentum based person. Always have been. I don't know why. It's one of my biggest internal drivers. Like it sounds weird, but we could launch a new division and we could be failing at it. Doesn't bother me. As long as we're better today than we were yesterday, I feel really good about that. And we could have a division that's absolutely killing it, but I don't feel like it's improving, and it doesn't bring me joy. It actually brings me frustration. So being aware of that really helped me keep my motivation high, and really I try to focus on like small, consistent improvements in virtually everything I do. And know that some things I'm just never going to be good at, and I tend not to do those things, right? I tend to lean into my strengths. So that's what keeps me kind of going every day. It's the setting myself up for success where I don't have a lot of option, and focusing on, focusing on the small wins consistently. So I feel that momentum going forward.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is that kind of from both of you, like to center that, right, is prioritizing is a major thing, right? Even the systems that you have, we're prioritizing what we're doing in some order or fashion. And so I guess my question
is the how much game, right? We've all talked about the how much game, right?
Yeah, 100%. I guess for me, when I think about prioritizing or motivating myself, it's all seasonal. Like when it comes to seasonality, super huge. Like I have 5 children, for any of you who doesn't know, and our house is a wild zoo at times. It's a little harder to motivate myself in certain seasons than in others, right? I saw that hand, Adam. So prioritizing and understanding that, also developing the systems. But I guess to you guys, or both of you or whoever, where do you start with prioritization when it comes to motivation? Because for me, that was a struggle at many points in seasons of like, I don't feel motivated right now, but I don't know where to start. And I don't know how to begin this process of remotivating myself. And so I don't know if everybody's like me, but I just start doing random things and throwing spaghetti at a wall and praying it sticks, which isn't a good strategy for long-term motivation. So what are your thoughts on that, Mary or Josh?
Sometimes within that, I've been there, and it is, and I coach people and teach people, find something. So even just a little, sometimes we forget who we are. We get so, especially as business owners, there are times that we get lost in the hamster wheel of the season of life and we forget. And all of a sudden it's just like, why am I doing what I'm doing? If you can go back to, and so for me, and I listened to Josh, we're complete different leadership styles. And I can guarantee that every single person in here has a complete different mindset and a leadership style. So what works for me isn't going to work for, Jeremiah or Edward or Josh or yourself. It really is I had to really look at what grounds me, what helps center me so that I have more to give back. Because if I am not centered, if I am not clear, if I do not have a vision, I am freaking toast. And I'm on that hamster wheel. There's been times that, I teach this stuff and I had better live it. But there's times, I'm gonna be honest with you, I am not living it. I'm the student, and there's times that the teacher has to be the student, and it is a reset going, hold on a minute. What do you need? What do I need to do? And that piece, if I don't know where I'm going, last year my word was vision. If I'm not clear in the vision, then my business is going to suffer. My personal life is going to suffer. So I have to know something. What do I want? What brings me joy? And do that. Sometimes it's the family. Sometimes it is, man, I haven't connected with my grandkids right now, and I need to take the day off, do a yes day, go get my nails done or have a drink with my daughters, or something to recenter me. So that's where I start is, if you don't know when you did what brought you joy, why did you start? What are you doing? And you do that little thing. And sometimes we're so freaking hard on ourselves, and the harder we are on ourselves, the more we get stuck in a spiral, and then we don't know what to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I want to go ahead, Josh. I'm sorry. Didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, you're fine. I mean, for me, Mary will attest to this. Like, she dug into me quite a bit and has many times. One of the biggest reasons I'm successful is I am very good at just staying. I'm a grinder. I don't mind grinding. I like grinding. But the truth is, I know myself enough that I won't grind for me, not to the same level. So I always try to frame, like, when something needs to be done for the business, like, I don't ever think about like the business. I don't think about me. I think about, like, this is how I help Austin become a millionaire. This is how I change life. This is how I get generational wealth. This is how I set my kids up for success. This is how I build an example for my kids. So I always try to constantly frame myself that when I'm doing things, I'm not doing it for myself, because I'm just not that motivated to do things for myself, because I'm in a position now where, like, I just don't really need to do shit. I choose to do stuff, right? And I choose to do too much, too often. And I live with that because I like that need to do things for other people. But you just have to find something that, like, really clicks and connects with you. For me, it's just constantly framing. And sometimes, like, this is not like the exact example or whatever, right? But like Michael Jordan was one of the greatest competitors of all time, right? He made an excuse to be pissed on every single game, right? Like, that guy didn't, when he shook my hand, he didn't look in my eyes long enough. Screw that guy, right? Now he's mad, and that's how he played. I don't play mad, but I have to constantly reframe myself of, like, why am I doing this? Who am I doing this for? And how is it going to affect them? And a lot of you guys are clients, like, I'll hop on a call with you, no questions asked, whatever the fuck you need, I got you. I'll figure it out. right? Because I'm doing it for you. And that's enough for me.
Yeah, I think for me, one of the big things, and I know I've talked to a couple people on this call about this, and Brandon and Steve, is I had a mentor a long time ago use the term irreducible minimums. And I love that phrase. And what it does is, right, if you took yourself and you boiled it down, it's pretty much the same question Mary asked too, of like, hey, what grounds you, what centers you? To Josh's point, what is that constant thing that's going to keep you going? I just like to use the term irreducible minimums. What are the things that I can't remove from my daily activities that if I do remove, I'm not the best version of myself? And if I do remove those things, I can easily identify them because I've identified them over the years. And so for me, right, that not only motivates me, but it helps me consistently walk through the seasons of learning and developing as a leader. And so kind of moving into the next question, I would say, how do you make sure, right, with all that going on, motivation, whirlwinds of the business, how do you make sure you're always growing as a leader?
It's an effort.
It is.
Yeah. For me, like I've read a business or self-help book a month since I was, a teenager. You know what I mean? Like I learned that pretty early and pretty quickly, and I've kept that habit. So that's my consistent thing. And then honestly, I always try to get coaches and mentors and, people to help. And like, I learned a long time ago, it's usually way better to pay someone than to try to figure it out yourself. So a lot of times I find the people, and sometimes I'll bribe them. Sometimes I'll use their ego. Sometimes whatever it takes. I have to constantly, if I'm not improving myself, not only does that affect my happiness, but like it directly affects everyone around me.
Yeah, to Josh's point, I don't read a book. I actually have, if you would see my office right now, one of the things that I'm really good at is I'll start something. And the thing that I get to work on is I don't finish it. So I have literally like 5 books that I've started. I'm like, oh my God, this is so good. And I'll take a nugget here and I'll take a nugget here. And then I'm like, oh, wow, there's something else. Instead of just sticking with it. I can tell you if I'm not learning, if I'm not looking at how do I continue to level up, then I'm flat. So sometimes it's TED Talks and podcasts. I have my mentors and teachers and putting myself in a hot seat. And I'll even say to Josh, you are amazing at bringing something out of people. You came out of Bold and you challenged me. And we need people in our lives that challenge us to level up. Because if we're not, and we play safe, then we're just going through the motions. And as leaders, sometimes that's the hard part, is to get uncomfortable because we think we're supposed to know it all, especially if we're in a management, leadership, ownership role. Oh my God, what happens if I don't know? Well, you know what? So what? If you don't know, own it and get the information, ask for help. That's where people want to follow people like us or other people that we don't know it all. We're not perfect. So we're not learning.
Speak for yourself. I'm obviously perfect.
Yeah, you're it. Yeah.
By the way, the most prolific reader you probably ever met is Austin. He fucking reads like a crazy person.
A lot of books. I do love reading. If there was a way that I would say I'm always growing as a leader, it's probably reading. But that's also because it's an irreducible minimum for me. That if I'm not learning something every day, and I've identified this years ago, thankfully, that if I'm not learning something, I could be so productive, but I don't feel like I'm moving forward. I don't feel like I'm progressing. And so that's a part of it. Go ahead, Mary.
Actually add to that, because a lot of times people will read and yet they don't do anything with the knowledge. And one of the things that this is just how my brain is wired. I read, I highlight, I have to still have a book, in my hands. Right now I'm reading You, Eric Thomas, but I have to read and I have to highlight and make notes. And then I take that concept and then I write about it. Because if I'm not translating the knowledge into application, then I'm just reading and I'm not doing anything. And I think sometimes where people get stuck is, oh yeah, done there, been that, I'm listening, but do we actually pause and say, what about that was really, where did it grab me? Why did that inspire me? Where did it spark me? Now, how can I take that and actually apply it to my life and create a system, accountability, people that we can bounce ideas off of so that we actually take the principles and put it into action?
Yeah, that's crucial, right? And so to Josh's point earlier, having a system for that. So if you don't have a system for that, I would encourage. There was 3 things I started with, right? In the back of every book I read, I would keep like a little tally, and it would say 3 things I want to start doing, 3 things I want to stop doing, and just general key takeaways. That was kind of my first step. The second step and third step, and now 4th or 5th, right? To Mary's point, writing about it. I have a little notebook, one of those little moleskins, and I put it on every single book. And every time there's a quote or a chapter or a page or something, I write it down in that little book. And before I leave that book, I translate all of that into something that's valuable for my life, whether it's a system or it's a process, or, recently I was reading a parenting book. And I took those things and had a conversation with my wife, and we implemented a new chore system, or we implemented a new motivational system for our kids, or whatever that thing is that I'm trying to take in. So I think that's one huge thing when we talk about leadership as a daily practice, is it's taking the ideas that we have from even these kind of webinars and applying them into actual life. I think, Josh, you say it all the time. What is it? Knowledge is...
ideas are cheap. Execution is all that matters.
Yeah, I mean, and that's included in leadership. And I think a lot of times we're looking for that magical key. We're looking for that thing that we just can keep going for. And so, interesting question here, kind of pivoting gears, would ask, how do you know if you're leading well? Right? How do you know if you're on the pursuit and you are growing as a leader and you are leading well?
Look
I
at
don't have a good answer for that. I'll let Mary handle that one.
I was going to say, look at your team. Look at the people around you, because so many times what happens, we want to blame, we want to look outside of ourselves, and yet leadership starts with us. I love John Maxwell's quote where he says it's lead your ship. So your leadership is lead your ship. And if you are looking at the people around you, the people that you lead, the people that you manage, and they're not performing to a standard or expectation, or things that maybe you're irritated, it starts and ends with us. Eric and I always go, what did we do to create this? And leadership has to start here first. And to me, that's one of the biggest key components. And then ask for feedback. And we don't like that a lot of times as leaders. Ask people around you, what are my blind spots?
Yeah, we do surveys, and they're always so brutal. So brutal. They never tell you the positive stuff. But no, you're right. It's the team around you. But I mean, at the same time, I've had a team that was driving successful, and then like I'm not as in tune. I'm not as good a manager as I am an entrepreneur. There's no doubt in the world. Right. So sometimes it's like when I think everything is going really well, the team is like stressed beyond their means. So I just really put people around me that's good at that. And that's my solution to that. And it's not a great solution. And it's something I consistently work at and need to be much better at. But I do it by bringing people around me that pay attention to that stuff much better than I would. I am not like Mary, your word was vision. Like the team got on me because the vision wasn't clear enough. And I'm like, I don't write down visions. That's not who I am. But I did because it was important to them. Right. So I just surround myself with people that let me know if I'm being a good leader, if I'm being totally honest.
Well, and are they willing to speak the truth? Because no, but if people give us fluff, and oh my gosh, we know, like, honestly, if you were to give a 100% honest look at yourself and go, am I leading well? Are people truly being honest with me? Or are they being surface and just feeding me a line of BS that, I know when I'm not leading well. Edward's on here, and there's times that's just like, whoo, I know I could do better. And a great leader also has a team of people who are willing to have the hard conversations, pulling you out of your space, going, hey, let me have a conversation with you. But if they're not giving it to you, take a look in the mirror. What are you doing to create that?
Yeah, there's so many times in this conversation that I just want to say something that I'm not allowed to say. But I'll just say, go to Bold, everybody, if you haven't gone to Bold. So that's my unselfish, very proud plug for Bold again. But one of the things that Josh, you talked about, and Mary, you hit on, and this is, I would think, one of the biggest things for me if someone asks me, how do you know you're a good leader, is one, ask. You can't be afraid to ask. And too many times we are, because we actually know the answer. We just don't want to hear it. But that actually makes you a good leader. So ask and keep asking and don't stop asking. Some of the greatest feedback that I never wanted to hear was because I just asked for it. And just keep doing it. But I think
you go to Bold and you just get it.
And then you just get it, right? But I think number two,
you get too much of it.
Absolutely. Number two, there would be finding a space for reflection. I mean, you said this, Mary, like, look at the mirror. Josh, you said, like, I have to hear that and be able to identify and process what the gaps are. And too many times as business leaders and entrepreneurs, and we're driving and we're trying to create successes, and we don't stop and take the time, create the space intentionally for reflection. And so my question this isn't on the sheet, Josh, sorry. What is your space? How do you do that? What's your, repetitive thing where you will reflect? Go ahead.
Don't worry, because I didn't actually read the questions that you sent me.
You would never.
They're all fresh.
No. Josh just likes to jump in.
So one more time, sorry. The question was, what are my habitual?
How do you find and create space for reflection in your busyness, right?
Honestly, I mean, part of it is I time block for it. So like I make sure I have time for it, but in a real way, like I'm not the best at consistently doing it. I'm good at doing it at inflection points, meaning like I have time for a deep breath. Let's pay attention to this. Hey, we're launching this new thing. Let me rethink this, right? I believe I could outthink most people, right? But I'm aware, and I have a habit of, like, on a daily basis, and the team can attest this, like, I am a driver. I am a get shit done. I am like, no, we're moving. And that works most of the time. It does not work all the time. And most people aren't built that way. So eventually, if I don't take those breaks, I wear the team down. And I'm aware of that, right? So I tend to do it when we're like launching something, creating something new, doing executive retreats, building into the calendar where, like, anytime this is a terrible this is not like an example, but I do this, but like I forget the book, and you guys would know it because you're better at remember which book, but like the doorway exercise. When I walk through a doorway, what am I trying to accomplish in this room, right? So I just create those points where, like, I know anytime this happens, that's the time I need to rethink things and just pay attention for a bit. Because if I don't have that habit and that system in place, I won't do it. And that's not a good thing. But I'm honest about who I am. And that's one of the reasons I've had so much success.
Yeah.
So I go back to my morning routines. Whether I'm in a hotel, I have my journal. I make copies of my journal, and that grounds me. I am horrible. And I'm going to own this. I'm a horrible collaborator. I'm really good at my internal work and setting my day up for success. When we go into the business or training, usually we have something on the schedule. and Eric and I have to literally shut everything down. And it is a weekend because our days become so full where he likes to collaborate all the time. Collaboration get a lot better because he keeps going, we need to meet, we need to meet, we need to meet. So I actually have to work on that and be super intentional for the business.
Yeah.
And I just own that one. That's my weak area.
Yep. I love it. I think it's just so important as we as business people, right? So I don't know if anybody's ever read The 4 Disciplines of Execution by Chris McChisney, right? He talks about 2 big things that are constantly at opposing views, right? You have this whirlwind of our businesses, which we all feel. No matter what we're doing, no matter where we are in the season, like we feel this whirlwind and it's constantly pulling us away from the things that are most important. We have to step back and look and say, hey, how am I growing? How am I leading? How am I fulfilling? How am I motivating myself? Is it positive or negative motivation that is actually good? And so waking up and leading as a daily practice, all of these things are important. I mean, I don't know if y'all are taking notes, but I'm trying to as we're going here. We're going to send the recording out, by the way, for everybody. And so just to say this, Louise, is it bad that I do reflection when I drive? I agree with Josh Kelly. As long as you don't close your eyes for it,
Right.
It's all good. So I find in sometimes in different seasons, it is absolutely imperative that we are creative in that way. If you're in your car a lot, reflect while you're driving. If you don't have a lot of time to read, audibles while you're driving, podcasts while you're driving. We can all use excuses. And I've done it in different seasons. Like, man, I just can't, like, it's just so much. It's so busy. It's so, we have to find areas and develop the systems to consistently do this. And so Mary, with your morning routine, Josh, with kind of building the systems and having people come and hold accountability, all of those things are crucial. Adam, I agree, habit stacking, making sure those things are just consistently putting on top of each other. To kind of switch gears again, right, into a different way, because up until this point, we've talked about how both of you have been leading yourself well. But moving into kind of the same questions, but in light of building other people around you. Because as business owners and leaders, it's not just the bar to lead yourself. You're leading others and motivating others. So how do you build leaders under you consistently in the middle of also trying to lead yourself well? Like there's a tension there to manage.
Well, and it has to start with you, to your point. In fact, I was just reading John Maxwell's new book on communication, the 16 Undeniable Laws of Communication. And what I love, even how we speak and how we communicate, we have to own it. So when we are authentic and we are doing what we can and we're doing our best, now we have the right to lead other people. And I believe it's teaching them, but also understanding what is their driver, like what gets them going, what is their why, how do I help put you in the right seat, and having those check-ins with them. Because so many times we go through the grind and there's that engagement, disengagement, actively disengaged employee, manager. But so many times we're so focused on what's next, or ourselves, that we're not stopping and pausing. We have to have those one-on-ones. We have to figure out how to reconnect so that we help them intentionally on purpose.
Yeah. So, I mean, Austin and Kelly can attest to this, right? Really, like a lot of you guys are clients, right? And the truth is you're clients of mine, but I don't necessarily think that way. My clients are the team members, right? And my job is to build amazing, unbelievable team members and make sure they're enjoying life every single day and they're growing and having success. And by doing that, they take care of you, right? And that's the way I structure my thought process, right? So for me, building leaders and consistently doing that, it really is a few things. Number one, spending the time, money, and effort on the people I could actually have the biggest influence, which is my own team members. Really, the executive team first, and then after that, I try to spend time with everyone, but much more the closer you are to me. Because at the same time, Austin, mentors people too, right? And, so that's one. The second thing I really do is I tend to lead with responsibility, meaning I'm going to trust you to do this. I'm going to let you fail. I'm going to let you screw up, and I'm not going to fix it for you. I'm not going to tell you how to do things. I'm going to, even if I know the answer off the top of my head, I'm likely to make you go figure it out. Because if I could teach you how to think more effectively, then you'll end up doing more effectively. So I tend to focus a lot on leading from behind at this stage in my career than leading from the front. I would say most people outside the organization would say I'm a leader from the front. Most people in would say I'm a leader from behind. You don't even know I'm involved on most of the things I'm involved in. And that's by design, right? Because number one, I want to give the credit and I'll take the blame too. But in general, when things are going really well on your leadership team, even your own team members don't know you're doing things. So that's kind of how I do it. And I don't know where I picked that up, to be totally honest. I picked it up from lots of people, I'm sure. But that's how I make sure I'm building leaders. And like, I mean, Austin, you can attest this. Like, I give him shit he has no business being able to do sometimes. And somehow he fucking figures it out. Right. Consistently he figures it out, and he figures it out faster and better now than he did a year and a half or 2 years ago. Right. His capabilities is not twice as good. It's 25 times as good as it once was. And you'll find that kind of works across your team once you really focus on it.
Yeah.
We have a saying at Bold, and we really believe this all across the board, is that great leaders know when to lead from the front. They know when they need to step up, when they need to take action, when they need to give the vision, right? They also know when to lead from behind. How do you empower people? And they also do the chicken wing, where you watch people on the sidelines and they're quiet, right? And you give them like, hey, you know, what about you? And bringing in their ideas. There's that saying out there now, that the quiet quitters. And we have to be so conscious and aware of those people who are quiet quitters. And sometimes that's the chicken wing. Hey, what's going on? You're doing just enough. You're clocking in, but man, you're on the sidelines. So building that team, I believe it is from the front, from the back, and then the chicken wings.
Yeah, I would say a couple things to what both of you said, just to kind of build on that, and then also pivot to the next question would be, how do we build leaders? Be intentional. If you're growing yourself as a leader and as a person, the easy way to start doing that is do exactly what you're doing for yourself and bring that downhill, right? Water starts uphill and flows downhill. It starts with you. Mary just said that. And I think it's so true. And Kevin, you said it, set them up for success. Bring your successes and what you're doing to help yourself grow and pass that along down. So it takes intentionality. Principle of the Path is one of my favorite books. And it talks about intention. Without direction, you'll never reach your destination. So a lot of us want to have this company where we have all of these leaders and they're growing and we can lead from the back and lead from the front at times, and people take the reins and they run with it. But our intention and our direction don't match that. And so we'll never get there. And so what I would say is it's those small tweaks, it's those small things. And one thing that I really have a struggle with as a driver, a motivator, someone who is passionate about growing, not only themselves, but others, is my expectations are extremely high. I have a really high bar set for other people. Mary has unfortunately seen some of that in me over our time together. And one of the biggest things that I would say when we talk about how to build leaders is we want to do. One of the biggest things I learned, and I got a mentor that told me this, was leadership is 51% encouragement. I would ask you, how are you encouraging your team? How are you encouraging your leaders? How are you motivating them through encouragement and responding to them positively in what they're doing and how they're directing? It is massively important when we think about building people to motivate them with encouragement through the process. Also, another non-selfish plug, that's a lot of what Bold did for me as well. So go ahead, Mary, I see it.
No, so to your point, there's three needs that we all have. We need to be seen, we need to be heard, and we need to know that we have value. And when we look at our teams, if we're just pushing our agenda or pushing the next sale or whatever, and we don't stop and recognize them and to actually acknowledge them for what they're doing, then they go into the status of the quiet quitter. They need to know that what they do overall is tying to the overall of the company. How does their role set the company up for success? Do they have meaning? And there's times I'll just stop. I'll go on this, whoo, I got so much going on, and I'll stop and I'll pause. I'm like, Kyla, I just want to say thank you. And I am so specific. And that's the other thing. When you are encouraging and motivating your team and you're speaking courage into them, be specific on what you see them doing.
Yeah.
So it's not just, hey, you're doing a great job. No, the way you've responded, the way you've reaching out to our clients, how thorough you are, how fast your response is, I appreciate that in you.
Yeah. Stephanie, I see that hand.
I just want to share with
I like how you
everybody
pointed,
here
too.
that Austin really helped me shape direction and take hold of my leadership. So Austin, let's see if we get this right as a team, right?
Oh God.
You were at Chick-fil-A. What business were you in?
We were in the leadership development business.
So when I stopped thinking of myself as an HVAC contractor and started thinking of myself in the business of leadership development, it changed the way that I came to work every day. So that moment was really impactful for me. And I just wanted to share that with all of you. You have to change your thought process on what is your business. I'll go back to the quiet side.
No, that's so good. One of the big things that that we always said when I was in Chick-fil-A, and it sounds different, right? We say, hey, we're not in the chicken business. We're in the people business. We just so happen to sell chicken. And then we kind of took that a step further in our local restaurant and said, hey, we're not in the chicken sales business. We're in the leadership development business, and we want to be known, and we exist as a group of individuals that are leading the charge of leadership development for the next generation of leaders. So, because we were able to harness all of the nurses that will be future nurses. So what can I teach them in Chick-fil-A that's going to help them? Well, I can't teach them how to, dress a wound, but I can teach them how to handle pressure well. I can teach them how to make decisions under chaos. I can teach them how to bring about change through influence. Right. So to your point, Stephanie, as you shift that mindset for yourself, but also for your team. And so that's kind of the next question I would say to Josh and Mary. How do you start to shape that and kind of change that perspective for yourself and then also for your team of what they're doing? Because sometimes I think it's tough when they're in the wrong mindset of what they're doing to find the value in how they're doing it as well.
And then the bold.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we do send them the bowl. That's a big piece of what we do, just being totally honest. But a lot of it is really, it's a combination. Number one, I'm a big fan of setting expectations properly. So we set expectation very well right in the beginning. We use like a modified version of Alan O'Neill's 3 Promises. I am a huge fan of the 3 Promises. They're incredible, right? But really the consistency to it is just through action. Like, are you having meetings with your executive team, with your managers on like how we can facilitate a better lifestyle for your technicians or your CSRs? Are you talking about how you find ways to pay them more? Are you talking about what training they're doing, right? What can we bring in from outside? What can we send them to? What information can we do? Can we start a book club? Are you just consistently bringing it up, paying attention to it, and focusing on it? Now we do it through the lens of the 3 Promises because I think it makes it easy for us to understand. But you could do it through whatever lens you have. Just real quick, and I'll do like a 1-minute version. Does anybody not know what the 3 Promises are? So a few of you. This is one of my favorite contractors in the world, Alan O'Neill with Berkey's Abacus did this, and he has this amazing talent where he believes his number one job is recruiting and retention. And I don't disagree with him. If you have the best people, it solves a lot of problems, right? So he's the only guy I've ever met that in the middle of a board meeting of wrench, will have a CSR that tries to quit. He gets a phone call and he will screw that meeting. He does not care. His job is retention and making sure every team member's having a great experience. So he taught me this, and we do this now. So every single team member that comes into the team, without exception, we do this at Parker and Sons, we did this at Review Kangaroo, we did this at Pulse, we do it at Clover, right? It's going to be me for Clover, but as the team expands, it will be me as long as it possibly can. By the time they get to me, they're already hired. I generally don't interview people as much anymore unless they're executive level. That's not what I'm there for, but I'm going to be essentially the last interview they have. But they've gotten a job, they've accepted it. It's beyond that, right? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit down and I'm just going to talk to them for a few minutes. My job is to get them as comfortable as they possibly can. I'll do the same thing we all do. Like, hey, tell me about your hobbies, tell me about yourself, all the basic stuff. And I'm looking for them just to take a deep breath. The moment I see them feel comfortable and take that deep breath, I am going to flip the script and I'm going to make them unbelievably uncomfortable because I'm going to have a really awkward conversation. My conversation is going to go something like this. You go, well, the real reason I wanted to get to know you, I wanted you to get to know me as well. But I really brought you in to talk about the 3 promises. You ever heard of the 3 promises? Most people haven't. Some people on my team do because they talk before they're supposed to. Yeah, it's okay. But no, I don't know what the 3 promises is. Like, well, I'm going to explain them to you right now. And I think it's important not only that you understand what I expect from you, but what you should expect from me. And I'm going to give you 3 promises right now, and I will hold those 3 promises as long as you're willing to make me 1 promise back at the end of this. So let's go into it. Promise number 1 is by the time you leave, and everybody leaves at some point. I hope it's for retirement or you have an amazing business idea. I'd love to be your first investor, but everybody leaves at some point. And when you leave, I promise you that you're going to be a better technician, accountant, CSR, executive, manager, whatever your role is. I can promise that because I spend more time, money, and effort than anybody else in the industry. I will send you to more things. I will give you more opportunity. I will spend more on tools and training than anybody else in the industry. I could literally promise you by the time you leave, and everybody leaves at some point, that you will be better at your job. Promise number 2, I promise that by the time you leave, and everybody leaves at some point, that you're going to be a better person. You always get a weird look here, right? I'll go into like, well, some of the things we teach you are things like communication, goal setting, setting expectations, and they not only make you better at your job, but they make you a better father, a better husband, a better friend, a better son. So by the time you leave, I could literally promise you, you're going to be a better person. Third thing I promise you is by the time you leave, you're going to be in a better financial position than you are today. I can promise that because I'm going to give you more opportunity than you've ever had. I'm going to give you more education, training, learning. I'm going to buy the systems. I'm going to buy the software. I'm going to set you up for success. And by the time you leave, you will be in a better financial position than you are today. I'm willing to make all 3 of those promises as long as you're willing to promise me back right now. And I want to hear it out loud that you're open to these 3 ideas and you're willing to work for it. And if you do that, I guarantee I'll do those 3 promises. Now, to be clear, what have I just done? I have not only said, imagine that experience of when they have that conversation compared to every other job they've ever had, right? Most of them don't do any expectation setting. Good companies say this is what you should look like in 90 days, but they never talk about what you should look like, right? Which helps me with recruiting, it helps me with the retention, it helps with the whole process. Well, what I'm really doing is I'm setting a culture hook. I'm saying I expect you to grow in your profession. I expect you to be a better person, and I expect you to make more money. It just changes the whole dynamic. And now that's how we frame all of our team stuff. Like, does this deliver on the 3 promises? How can we better deliver on these 3 promises? What could we be doing more? What could we be doing differently? And it gives us the lens not only to help attack that better, but the whole team understands because it's simple enough for them to really wrap their head around in entirety. And by the way, everybody leaves at some point, right? And if someone leaves for something else outside of a business they want to start or retirement, you better believe I do an exit interview. And guess what? 3 questions I ask, right? Mm-hmm. I make sure I deliver on that without exception, right? And beyond that, sometimes I could save them right there on the spot. It's like, well, then why are you leaving? some people's like, no, you're right. Probably shouldn't. Right. So that's, I don't know if that helps for everybody. You never heard that before. I know several of you have heard that before, but I would recommend that so incredibly highly. Every single person that comes into your business, it's either you, or if you have a large team like Parker and Sons, it was Daryl, my father, or myself. One of the three of us did it with every single team member, right? Without exception. I would so heavily recommend you do that. It's unbelievable. And we could give you the verbiage and exactly how to roll that out. If you just want to ask Kelly for it, we'll be happy to give it to you.
I love that. I'm taking that. I know that we can guarantee the two promises, the third one can happen, but it is about learning more and absolutely being a better person. We work on, and we have to align ourselves with the values. First and foremost, we know that our values are congruent, growth mindset, willing to learn and grow, apply feedback, have courage, make those hard choices, actually make the decision being okay to make a mistake. And usually they make more money afterwards, hands down.
So let me challenge you, Mary. If they're open to the idea and they're willing to work for it, you can guarantee it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why that caveat's in place, right? That has to be done. Otherwise, I can't deliver on any of those if they're not really open to it. And if they're not willing to work for it. But if they're willing to work for it and they're open to the ideas, I can literally guarantee that they'll be in a better financial position. Simple things like I'll bring in financial advisors to help them, right? Like not all of my training has to be technical, right? I'll bring in, I'll launch a 401k, right? I will pay them more than anyone else. I'll provide more opportunity. And if they're willing to work for it and they're open to those, they'll take them. And they will be.
And you get the right cultural fit.
Yep.
Yeah. All those things when we talk about waking up and leading, right? Just to kind of recap, to think through all of the things, because it was a lot there. When you come to the three promises, the systems, the building, the motivation, the team, the building leaders underneath you, how do we do all of that? I don't know. I had these like simple yet really powerful messages that kind of came through on every one of them, which was prioritize well, reflect consistently, ask the hard questions to yourself and to others, and then seek and strive for consistency in how we do this. It's how you wake up. There's no magical pill there, right? Or key. It's consistent moving in the right direction. And so I want to just kind of take the opportunity. We have 5 minutes to be a good steward of everybody's time who signed up. If we have any like closing thoughts from Josh or Mary, and then also too want to kind of open it up for anybody that has some questions. So
I do have just one last thing I want to say, in that it's literally been burning in me the last couple of days, is the standard. So our standard, when we say the standard is a standard, everything that you get or I get really rises and falls on our standard. And so when we set a standard, whatever you're willing to tolerate is also the standard. So if there's accountability and you look at people on your team and you say, this is our standard, and someone isn't following it and you let it go, that is now your standard. And as I've been reading this UOU, that was the whole message too, is what is your standard? And my standard is not making excuses, because if we start making excuses, that's our standard.
Yeah. No, I agree. It's what you accept is your standard, not what you say. There's no doubt in the world.
Yeah, and one last follow-up too. I will say this. Sorry, Josh, didn't mean to cut you there. I put everybody, you have 2 massive opportunities for follow-up. I put Clover's link in there that's offering a free discovery call to help kind of bring this information to life. If you aren't a client, I want to know what more of that looks like, or if you are a client, reach out to kind of help bring this to life. But also I'm putting Mary's link in there as well. If you have any questions about this bold thing that no one will tell you about, but everybody keeps saying is really good. And if you want to meet with her, have any questions, concerns, see what working with her looks like. She just put her email address in there. And do you want me to put the link as well, Mary? For you?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I'll have her email and her link as well. So feel free to take advantage of those big opportunities. And Vicky, I agree. Bold is amazing. I think everyone who has gone can say that for sure. Yeah, any questions or concerns as we continue on? We have about 3 minutes left. Anybody have anything that they want to add, take away, or any thoughts or questions?
Yeah, I'll make a quick shameless plug here. Yes, if you want to grow your business and become more sustainable and grow it to a higher level, we'll certainly set up a call with us. But Bold specifically, I will tell you, like, I'm a person who's worked on myself, and Austin is too, and Laura is too, for a very long time, and spent a lot of time, money, and effort doing it. And I've spoken on stage with Tony Robbins, and I've done some cool shit. I will tell you, Bold was the most intensive, hardest, most incredible experiences I've probably ever done in the self-help thing. It was amazing. And I would say, whether you feel like you're stuck or not, we're all stuck on certain things, right? I would have a conversation with her at the very least. After you have the conversation, you're going to want to go. And when you go, you let us know how amazing it was. So that's my shameless plug. Wow.
Yeah. And we got some great, we got a lot of people who've been in this group, but also people who are going. So it's really exciting. So
yeah, Brandon goes in like a week and a half, right?
Brandon, John goes next.
John goes next week.
John goes next week, which is
shit.
exciting. So, anybody have any questions about how to bring this to life in the business as a daily practice? Well, we crushed it. Mary. Oh, go ahead, Jeff. You're good. Thank you.
Sorry. So I hear a lot of people talk about mentors, and I got a mentor and I go see his mentor. What do you do when you've kind of might have surpassed your older mentor?
You get a new mentor.
I know that, but it's like, it's like, hey, I want you to be my mentor now. Like how do you go about like searching?
That's exactly. That's exactly. So so there's a couple strategies, right? Number one, I'll bribe them, like straight up, and say I play to their ego first, right? I say, listen, I really love this thing about you or what you're doing here, and I would love to learn more. I'd love to just get a call with you twice a month, and just kind of go over it and learn from you. I'm happy to pay you for that because I know your time's valuable. Most people won't do that. The ego play is enough, but you appeal to their ego and say, listen, you're doing something amazing, and I want to learn from you, and that's usually going to be enough. And sometimes it's hard to get into those conversations, but once you've had that brief conversation, you'd be surprised who you could convince to do that. And then if, hey, I don't have time for that, it's just not real, is okay, how often could you meet? Because I know this will change my life, right? Once again, just playing to the ego. I think you'll have a lot of success. And not everybody, please do that to me after this call.
I've had people reach out just to ask me to be a mentor, and it might be one call a month. The other thing I'm going to encourage you, if you've outgrown your mentor, who are you being a mentor to? Because we have a responsibility to go both ways, to teach what we've learned, and then to constantly help build our muscles too.
Yeah, Jeff, I would say, just from my perspective, I have a unique, a semi-unique kind of way. I had a mentor a long time ago kind of teach me this. Is I actually bring all of my mentorships around the 5 things that I'm trying to target for that year. And it's very specific time frame. So I never get in that position, because I was in that position when he kind of talked about this to me. And so I have a board of directors, if you will, for my own personal life. So around family, fitness, finances, fun, friendships, right? The 5 big F's for me. That's what I focus on. And so when I think about those things, I identify a person that I appreciate what they're doing, I look up to, and I value their feedback. I ask them to commit to a very specific thing for a specific length of time, so that it's easily digestible. Successful people oftentimes need that digestible ability to see their commitment. But number 2, I want them to know from the very start what I want their insight or work in, and I frame their questions and I send them to them at the start. Hey, I'm going to ask you these questions, or I'm going to go through these things, and this would be the extra. And the reason I structure it that way is, one, it helps me be consistent, but also two, it helps them understand what I'm looking for in order for them to have the greatest impact in those times. Because sometimes we get busy and it's like, oh man, I didn't even think about it, but I got this meeting with Mary tomorrow and she's my mentor. What am I going to ask her? You know, it kind of takes all of that out and kind of sets it up in a way that's predictable and scalable for both sides. So.
All right, guys. Well, we got to turn you loose. Go make some money, guys. I appreciate you stopping by, spend time. Please reach out to Mary if you need help on anything. Reach out to business. Kelly, when we do the follow-up email, we just include the information on the 3 promises just so they have a literal playbook for it. And then, guys, if you need help, you know how to reach out. We're happy to help. Appreciate it, guys.
This was fun. Thank you so much.
Yep.
Thank you. Guys.
Got the recording, Kelly. You're muted for some reason.
Still?
There you go.
AC Doctors here in Gilbert, Arizona. We specialize in residential, light commercial, HVAC, keeping people comfortable and happy. We had a lot of pains in the company. Me being on the contractor technician side, our office was failing big time. The culture was failing, our procedures were failing, callbacks, we were losing money on marketing. People weren't happy to come to work. So I searched out Josh and Laura. When I met them, I knew it was a good match right away. The reason is because they have a history to prove it. The background they have is amazing. So when they were implementing things, I had no hesitation on implementing it. I knew if it had worked for them, it could work for me. Some were hard, some were easy. A lot of them were little simple things that just made us explode. After about a month, it was just a 180. Everybody flipped around and it was just awesome. And the culture's been great. It's been a lot easier to hire people because we have a better feeling when we're hiring them coming into this awesome company. It's solved a lot of pain points for us for sure. The reason I love Josh over other coaches and people I was looking at or even tried, I tried a couple and then it was kind of in the background. They were just like, you know, here, do this, do that. Josh is up front, in your face, which is really good and I love because he's straightforward, tells me what I need to do and how to implement it. Everything has been successful, but he has that background from helping so many other companies be successful that it gives me that confidence to be successful as well. I'm not afraid to implement it and it works. Definitely works. We've been with them for a little over a year now, and so we've been able to see the fruitful progression that we made. We grew over $2 million in 1 year. Service agreements went from pretty much nothing. We had about 50 to we're over 750 now. Our call booking rate was down in the low 80s. Now we're in the mid 90s consistently, which has been amazing. And the overall culture of the company has been amazing. So the numbers show for themselves and it's been successful. The biggest transformation I can see in our company working with Clover has been the smooth growth. I mean, we've grown 25% last year, over $2 million, and it's been seamless, it's been smooth. Any growth before had so many pain points to it that we didn't want to grow because it wasn't right, it wasn't working, but now everything's just running smooth, the culture's awesome, the procedures are smooth, and it's great, loving it. I would recommend them to anybody, whether you're a small company, a large company, they're gonna have things that help you. I mean, if you wanna grow slowly, you wanna grow fast, they're gonna be able to help you. I've seen it with me, I've seen it with other contractors, and it definitely would recommend them to anybody.